Anyways, we're up to the entry of umanut, of a trade. So we were saying yesterday how a person has to teach his son a trade, has to shalom, because if he relies on the father's business, on old money, might be that the old money won't be there anymore. He might not be able to upkeep what his father was doing. So therefore, in order that he should not has to shalom lead to stealing, lead to robbery, so therefore you should give him a skill that he should always be able to make his own parnasah. Because we have seen with our own eyes many wealthy individuals who lost their assets completely. They were left wandering to the daily bread and even requesting charity. So that's why a person has to teach his son something that he could do for himself, a trade that he can master and sustain himself with dignity. So now the Peliwetz has a very interesting view. He says there's always a big debate. Should you be on salary? Is it better to be an employee, or is it better to be your own boss? Is it better to be a philanthropist? Is it better to be an entrepreneur? So there says the Peliwetz, there's another reason why one who relies upon a trade is better than the one who puts his faith in business investments. So he's talking about a salary. Also, he's talking about a person having a trade as opposed to buying and selling investments, wheeling and dealing. So he says, having a skill, right? Let's say a shoemaker or whatever it is. Even though extreme wealth does not come from a trade like it does from investments. A person who works his days working a trade will live a more pleasant life. He doesn't have to travel the oceans and the rivers in order to get his sustenance. He doesn't have to take loans, which sap a person's strength. He says a person who practices a trade doesn't have to extend credit to other people. He doesn't have to give out loans. He doesn't have to go and flick through the heat in the sun during his labor. Even in his house, in his comfortable space, in his office, in his workshop, in his house, he could do his trade, he could do his work. And even if a person who's wheeling and dealing investments, he also has to choose the better of the two evils, which is, a lot of times people want to make it big, they want to make big margins, they want to go in bigger investments. Person will try to gain wealth through credit and loans, constant travel through the seas and the rivers. Rather, what says the Peliwetz? Even if you're involved in investments, you should be satisfied with smaller returns. Your business dealings should be simpler, involving basic commodities. Things are likely to succeed and far from failure. And all these dealings will not bring in wealth, but it's better. Why? Better a dry piece of bread with peace than to have a house full of celebrations that comes with arguments. King Solomon says in Mishlei, chapter 17. And the sages tell us, better to eat onion, batzal, and sit batzel, sit in the shade of your house, which means that better to eat a little bit something more uncomfortable like onion, but you get to be benachad, you get to be in peace, as opposed to wheeling and dealing with millions of dollars. Then you're going to be nervous the whole time, thinking, what's going to be? I don't know, this fell through, that fell through, nervous, running around, anxiety. So therefore he says, what happens to this? The riches that from wheeling and dealing, tirdatas man, yigat adrachim, pizur nefesh, mnitinan nechasa ba'akafa. It says it'll lead to the pressures of the changing markets all the time. He wakes up, your guy puts in the stock market, he wakes up, the market's changed. All of a sudden, the president came out with his rule. All of a sudden, there's an embargo. All of a sudden, there's this, there's that. And you're nervous. How can it be? The market's changed. So therefore he says that what? He says the wariness from the travel, the pressures of the changing economic times, the anxiety that comes from extending merchandise on credit, and you don't know if you're going to get paid or not. Right? You don't know every month you're going to collect rent. Are they going to pay rent, or are they going to be? Or there's going to be a sore thumb on my head. So therefore, all these things, a person has to be ready and willing to deal with all this and be equipped. The father has to teach the son be equipped to deal with all these shenanigans, and then he could be in investments, and then he could do this what his father did. But otherwise, you better to take the trade. And in the trade, you make your hours, you know what you're doing, you're going to get a finished product, you're going to get paid more or less. It's not as stressful as being that businessman, wheeling and dealing. Menefesh ad besari chalut. So to the point where a person was not equipped and he throws himself into this investment game, into the buying and selling, into the renting out real estate, then what happens? He says he could destroy a person from soul to flesh. It could be that a person gets drowned in all this. He doesn't know how to be a person. He's not a father. He's not a servant of Hashem. He neglects his Torah studies, neglects his prayers. He neglects his basic humane functions as a person in society. He is not able to commit to. Why? Because it overtook him. His business overtook him. He's so busy. I don't have time, Rabbi. I don't have time. All those guys, I don't have time. I don't have time for my kids. I don't have time for my wife. I don't have time for Hashem. I don't have time for myself. I don't have time. He killed himself, working himself like a crazy because he's running around from all this anxiety. Therefore, he said, therefore you should choose yourself a trade, investment that's simple and easy. You should pray to the one who has all the wealth and who has all the possessions, and that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because nothing holds back from Hashem from delivering to somebody, whether many or the few. Hashem will not withhold good to those who walk with wholesomeness with Hashem. And of course, he says, the Gemara Masechet Kedushin says that a person has to teach his son umanut nikiya v'kala, clean and easy. What does it mean, clean? No thievery. No, teach him what does it mean not to steal. Teach him what it means to be honest. Teach him what it means that if you steal, you know what's going to be the consequences. You have to teach him something clean and easy. He says, due to our many sins we see in business today, it's normal. People always, they could change the wages. They always say, oh, you said this. I thought you meant this. And and they play these games and they steal. And you ask them, well, how are you stealing? He said, no, this is business. This is called being smart. This is called harifu, haritzu, shtadlut. This is called being smart, being shrewd, diligent, putting effort. And they say, if I don't steal, how am I going to make money? Everybody's crooked. There's no way to make honest business today, Rabbi. Chaz v'shalom, a person should not let his son fall into this type of behavior or be around these people. Because as the Pele Yoetz ends off with a nice line, he says that a person who follows the upright path will find life and wealth, and no loss will come to him from honesty. So a person should not fall into the Yetzer Hara, and you should know, if you can be in investments if you want to, if you just have to be ready for the bag that you have to carry. It's just if your son is not ready for that, maybe you should teach him a trade, and that way he'll have less anxiety and he'll be able to be servant of Hashem. But if a person wants the extreme wealth, most of the time it comes from investments. But you have to really to play the risk, pay the price, and a person has to be a lot of emunah, a lot of dedication. He has to be able to do the grind, and he has to be strong to overcome any obstacle. And it has to be first with having in mind that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one, Shami, Sha'osha Shelo. Baruch Adonai Olam.